thanks everybody for stopping by tonight. I've got some stuff lined up to do, and so I have some very crappy sketches here. Um, which, by the way, yeah, this here is a credit card number. This is actually fake. I scribbled that on this piece of paper earlier because I get a lot of scammers that call me and try to get my credit card number. So what I do now is I try to I give them fake numbers to stall them, and I guess they eventually figure out, that I know what they're up to, and they curse me out and stuff. It's kind of fun. But anyway, so you can try to use it, but it won't work. Anyways, the rest of this stuff is stuff we had to sculpt tonight. Um, so we've got some things that I forgot about, and one of them was we had this one scene where I had some plastic wrap on here, so I gotta probably clean this up a bit. Some parts got shiny. Let's see if I can line this up. There we are. So this is going to be one of the shots where the king comes out of his little castle here. This is his very small kingdom, and these doors have to open up, and a little drawbridge kind of a thing comes down. And he walks out, and let's see here. Is that working? Okay, it is. So a drawbridge comes down here, kind of flips down, and he walks out, and he overlooks everybody and kind of, gives a little speech. So these doors here need to be animated, and I want to animate these in a traditional way. I've got the Moho software we're going to use, and Moho is used to sort of slide things around in the two-dimensional sense. So, for example, here's our character. So our characters, as you guys probably already know, are 2D characters like this, but they're sculpted in clay. And so all the different parts can be slid around in Moho, just like you would do with the clay on glass technique. But we're not going to use the clay on glass technique for everything. We're going to use that just for certain stuff. And so this door I want to animate, but I want to alter this by... Let's see, get the tools out of the way. Tool. Got too many sculpting tools. Move this stuff around. So I want to pop this out of here, and I want to paint behind there black. And that popped out really easily. Actually, that's perfect. So I want to paint behind her black. Actually, I could probably do that in Photoshop. I don't really need to do that, do I? So that's okay, I'll do that in Photoshop. But this here, these doors, I'm going to animate traditionally. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just cut this in half with a knife. And in doing so, let's see if I can maybe... What I'll do is on my clay and glass rig or table setup, I don't know if you want to really call it a rig, but what I'll do is I'm going to animate these opening, because I tried to figure out, if I wanted to just make everything flat like this, how would I animate it? And I just think that animating it where I open it like this would be better. So anyways, that's my plan. Whether or not it's going to work out really well, I don't know. I should have probably brought my other set piece in here to look at for reference. That's alright. I'm going to kind of clean these doors up just a tad bit. But that's one of the things I had to do, and that's my solution. So I'll probably paint this black in Photoshop, but I do need to make the little brown sort of platform that comes down that he walks on. Now we'll animate that as well. That's going to be interesting to try and do. So anyway, I see Curtis. Curtis asked me about the Bendy's armature kits that we sell in the stop motion store. He says, what's the advantage of a bendy over metal armatures? And the difference between those, like I mentioned, is Bendy's armatures they utilize wire, right? So aluminum wire that can bend, and it can essentially bend in any direction. Like there's no limit to where wire can bend. So some people like Richard Svensson, that's all he uses are wire armatures. Um, and then he uses a build-up technique, so he'll sort of animate characters which are made out of rubber and prosade and paint and fabric and foam pieces and string and all that kind of stuff. And that's a big advantage, because wire tends not to break really. Like, people think that if you buy an armature kit, or you buy wire and you make your own armature, that it's just gonna break after 5 bends or something, and it's a big waste of money and waste of time. But that's not the case. Actually, wire armatures can last a very long time. But the big mistake people make, got some wire over here, is that when they use tools, if you use wire cutters or something, and you scratch the wire, if you sort of let me see if there's any scratches on this one. There probably is not. Might be towards the end. I don't see any scratches. Okay, well actually maybe this right here. Yeah, okay. Cause see, I don't know if you guys can see it or not though. So, right over here you can see some little nicks in the wire. Once this gets back in focus, hopefully. Come on, camera. It was in focus for a second. Come on, camera, focus. Focus, focus. Anyway, you guys probably can't see it. It's really faint. But if you use a metal tool on wire and you get a little ding in it, what happens is, if you were to use like a microscope or something, here's your piece of wire. It's round, right? Like this. So if you get a little ding or scratch like this, and you bend the wire back and forth at this point, this little ding ends up spreading and spreading and getting bigger and bigger. The more times you bend it back and forth, it becomes weaker and it can break. But if you avoid doing that, believe it or not, wire can last a very long time. So I wouldn't be afraid of using a wire armature if you're not really wanting to spend a huge amount of money. Benny's armature kits that's what they're designed for. They're designed for people that have slightly limited budgets and maybe limited skills in putting together more complicated armatures as well. So just something to think about. Okay, so I got some brown clay over here. But all our armature kits are really good. We used to sell some kits that the quality was not really all that great. And I didn't know that until after the fact, after we had started to sell them from one of our suppliers. And I got a lot of feedback and a lot of complaints about this one company, so we stopped selling their stuff. And we just try to be honest with everybody, all our customers. If anybody orders something, we don't want to make anybody unhappy, of course. That's not cool. So if you don't benefit from our products, we have 30-day money-back guarantee, of course, as long as you return stuff in resellable condition. But that's really it. So anyways, now, so here's our little drawbridge thing. And I'm going to flatten this a bit. So again, this here is something I want to animate in a traditional way. So hopefully you guys are having a good week. So just before the show started, the reason I stepped out was I wanted to use the bathroom. And so we have, in our bathroom downstairs, we have a clothes dryer and we have a washing machine. And I go in the bathroom, and what do I hear? I hear something moving around inside of our dryer, I thought. I'm like, what is that? Well, my son had locked our cat inside the clothes dryer. So, needless to say, I had to scold him for that and told him he's got to clean his room, no Xbox for the rest of the night, no TV, none of that. So I'm having a pretty good week, but I can't say the same for one of our cats. I mean, that's one of those things that's pretty dangerous, you know, like if you have a cat that goes inside of a clothes dryer or washing machine and you start it up, not knowing they're in there, that's pretty dangerous. And so I was kind of mad at him for that. I don't know what he was thinking exactly. Maybe he thought it was funny. It's unlike him to do stuff like that, but occasionally he does really stupid things. Oh, okay. So Curtis says, I think I've watched the tutorials for 2 years. I've only made my own wire armatures. It's a hassle if you're maintaining more than one. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You know, some people like it, some people don't. My very first film, I used wire, and it was Teddy Bear's Mistake. And the wire did break eventually. You know, it's one of those things where wire does break. So if you plan it, with the Bendy's armature kits, I try to help in avoiding, you know, having to like remake your puppet if the wire breaks. So the advanced system has the ability to replace parts that break. So that's one of the big things, you know, that I try to see if this is going to work. Yeah, this will work here. As I bend this up, it'll cover that. This is going to be perfect. All right. I am very happy with that. I'll just add some texture, some wood texture to this now. But, so yeah, I try to make the Bendy's kits so that if the wire breaks, the advanced ones, you just pop off a part, replace it, and get back to business. There we go. Same to this side as well. To the underside. Okay, this is going to be good. It's a little bit warm in here today, so the clay is a little bit soft. Right. And that's all we got to do for this one. This is done. Alright. And let's go here. So I'm going to have to put some plastic wrap and cover this up later on. This here kind of got flattened by that plastic wrap I had on here. So some of this stuff appears a little bit strangely shiny where it was touching. I don't want to say flattened, but the texture is so smooth with plastic wrap that when it sort of touches the surface of the clay, it reflects whatever's, you know, touching it. Just like if you use a sculpting tool and depress it in there, the shape is the same, but it got really shiny. So before I photograph this, I'll probably kind of go over the whole thing and make sure there's no glaring parts on there. Glints of my my lights on the camera. So all right, what's the next one to do? Okay, so the other part in the film is that we're gonna have to make these wooden boards that go around the tree because we're trying to protect the tree, right, the apple tree. So we can do that next. We've also got a house door. I don't have the little house set in here, but we have to make a door that also opens, which I want to animate traditionally, just like with the others that we just worked on. And then we also have some toys to make for the little kids that play in the house. So it's just like a train, a top, and a ball. That's going to be super easy to do, but I think the hard thing to do would be this and the wood. And this here is going to be where all of the people, since I wrote on here, it kind of bled through the other side, but we'll have like a smoke ball. I don't know what you want to call this, but I want to have a bunch of the characters' arms coming out of this cloud, and their legs on the bottom. And this is when they march across towards the other side, from one side of the land to the other, over the stream. And this is where all the villagers are really pissed off, and they want to find out, they want to protect their tree, and they get pissed off, and they go across the way, and they're going to have their pitchforks and all that kind of stuff kind of out like this, and they're just going to the whole thing will just like roll in that direction. And they're also going to be beating up one of the characters, and I want to have, all the same thing where the arms were coming out and sort of hitting the first mother character. So it's going to be something that might require a few replacements of smoke. Hey, welcome Ivy, and hey Wee Beast, and Randy, and Ethan. Welcome back. Alright, so now for the wood. So if you guys recall, the tree that we made was somewhat of a darker brown. And this, I don't want to have the same dark brown, so I'm going to go with this lighter brown. And I've got a few different shades of browns to go with, to use. Because I mixed up a bunch, right? So I got like some reddish brown, I've got some light brown, and this is sort of the stock brown. I think I'll start with the stock and maybe make like one of these and maybe one of these. This is sort of in between. Is this in between or this color? I think that's actually just stock brown right there. Alright. I think I'll avoid this one. This one's too reddish in color. But these boards will be how they protect their tree. And they're going to sort of come over here with hammers. They're going to be in their little smoke ball, and they're going to be really mad because their leader gets them pissed off and defensive about everybody. So they're going to start hammering away at these boards to create like a little wall just around the tree. Should be kind of cool. I mean, I can envision how I want it animated in my mind, but I'm not really sure if it will come out that way in the end. So we're just going to try to do our best. In fact, I might just roll out some of this clay and just cut up a bunch of pieces. That would be the easiest way. So one of the things that, if anybody out there is new with animating in stop motion and using clay, it's a little bit expensive, but if you buy a pasta roller machine, those things, they're really great to use for sculpting details, any kind of flat details like a belt, a tie, mechanical stuff. If you have something that needs to be smooth and flat, a flat surface. I mean, you can use tools like this to flatten out clay and get a smooth surface. You can also use, they sell in a lot of places like Hobby Lobby, they have a sort of clear acrylic, it's like a rolling pin, but it's just a dowel rod made from acrylic, which is a kind of clear plastic. So you can see that I can sort of get this to be kind of smooth, right? But the thickness is really varied. So the great thing about a pasta roller machine is that you can get an exact uniform thickness and not just smooth your clay. So I'll show you guys what I mean here. And most of you guys already know this, I know, but for those who are new, if you use the pasta roller machine, that's what you get. So all my boards I can literally just, sculpt, right out of this one piece if I want to. Just cut it up, make them all the same size or thickness if I want. Maybe vary the thickness. Whatever, it makes it a lot simpler, and faster, and more efficient. If you're wanting to, especially work in any kind of a studio or something like that, it makes your life a lot easier. So I can get these to be perfect. I don't really want them to be perfect and uniform, but this here gives me a good starting point. So I can cut these to any length I want. The way I sketched it was, different heights. So I'm gonna take a little bit more. I'm gonna roll some more out, and that will give me, I think, enough for what we need. Oh, catch you later, Tamarami. Yep, thanks for stopping by. I know it's really late there. It's like 3 or 3:30 now, I guess, in the morning. Alright, so here we have just another ball of clay, same brown. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use the same color on that. Like I said, I do want to have some variety in color. I think this one... So this ball of clay, I guess, wasn't mixed thoroughly. So you can see I have a bit of it's a different colored brown in there. Sort of like a darker brown. I have maybe some yellow. So I'm going to make this into a ball. So that all these colors are mixed up. I don't want to make it uniform and make it perfect. I'm going to flatten it out, and this is what I'm going to use to make... I'm going to take this little piece of blue out though. A little teeny tiny piece. I'm going to roll this out. We'll see what that does. Awesome. So now we've got this very wood-like texture going on with the different colors in there. So this is what I'm going to use to excuse me. I'm going to use this to make some more of these little boards. So I'm going to try and maybe choose section sort of like this. This should be pretty realistic, I think. Not that we're really going for super realism here, but still. And that is what you do. So we have a little bit of a skinny board here, a little bit fatter as we go down. And what we'll do is we'll texture all these together with our tools. Whoops. Darn it. So I've got two tools that I like to use. If I can find it, here it is. Let me clean this one off a bit first. There's some dust. Don't want dust. Alright, so we're gonna go over a couple of these with this one. Yeah, it's gonna be perfect here. So this is just like a round dental tool. Now, with this particular tool, I did a couple of things with it. What I did was I Let's see. So it started out kind of like this, really sharp and pointy. I'll show you guys. So what I did is I put the end in a vise. I think I put it in this way. So the tip was sticking out like that, right? And I took a hammer and I just hit it right off, and it broke off. And then so that broken end, I used a hand file and also sandpaper until it became rounded. So this one here is sort of like a round, very round, smooth tool. And that's what I use because it sort of glides like a ski or something across the clay. It doesn't grab it and rip it. For example, if you use a tool like this in this direction, it'll sort of grab the clay. Whereas if you use it like this, it leaves it nice and clean, right? Nice and clean. That's what you want. Or at least that's what I want. So that's the reason for using the tool that way. So this is really, it's really easy to add a wood texture like this in clay. And so you can add like little knots and things, like knot and knotty texture, which I think would be nice in a couple of these. So maybe I'll add another knot in this one. Make it a little bit larger because I don't want it to be, I want it to be more visible. This way there's no way you can, deny that that looks like a piece of wood. And we'll have sound effects of hammering on the wood and all that kind of stuff as well. So we'll really make an impact. We'll make it very clear to the audience that this is wood. And everything that you make in the film has to be explained. It has to be really clear. You have to make it obvious for everybody watching. Like, what is that? Oh, the boards of wood. I get it. So here you can see what it sort of looks like. Maybe focus, please, camera. There we go. Simple texture. Now, so with some of these, we want them to be shorter than others and longer than others. So what I'll do is, like, for example, this one here, I see that there's a little bit of like a green or blue clay on the end. So I'll make this one short here by cutting that off. So you kind of look at what you've done. You think, well, which one should be longer? Which one should be discarded? Are they all good? You can just decide what you like. And I think also we should texturize the ends of the boards. So in some of these I'm going to kind of make the details a bit nicer here. And this one I think I'll cut right in the center, so we have basically two boards, maybe just barely off center. So I have a really stubby one, sort of like this, where I've got that. And slightly longer. And the other thing about this is, since we're using Photoshop to reproduce objects, to duplicate them, we could always just duplicate some of these if we need to, or stretch them out in Photoshop. So the digital tools that you have give you a lot of extra abilities, and you want to take advantage of that as well. So Photoshop, Krita is free as a paint program. You can manipulate all this stuff in there if you like. You can even manipulate the colors. So if I want to add some more variety of colors of boards, I can just reproduce one or two of these. And let's see, how long is this one? This one's slightly shorter. you know, you can make it lighter or darker. So computers give you a lot of other things and you know, other tools to, you know, whatever's in your mind, whatever you're going for, computers can help. So it doesn't have to all be traditional and all by hand and all on a piece of film, you know, 16mm film and all that. And there are purists out there, but it's better not to limit yourself too much. Like if you are a purist, you know, go ahead and make a film like that, but you know, if you have some really complicated vision, then try and use what's available. I think Peter Montgomery is one guy who's really pushing the boundaries on that. He's kind of quiet of an animator. He doesn't really. He's very private and everything, but his film that he's working on, I think it's called Dark Earth, is, you know, uses traditional techniques with really super advanced computer techniques like blurring and motion jiggle of like the muscles and that kind of thing in a stop motion puppet, which I don't think too many people have really messed with that in the past. It is a lot of work to do, but if that's what you desire, if it helps you to get that vision in your mind expressed, you know, that's where it's an advantage. So I think I have, let me see, this one over here. How tall is this one? Move this one. Okay, so we got a pretty good variety of sizes now. So these here I think I'll keep long. I'm just gonna detail the top parts and the bottom. Should be cool. This. Alright, so we got that one done. So what time is it? 8:33. Perfect. It'd be cool if I could get all this done in 1 hour, but I think it's not going to be possible. Next week we may have to work on this one here, this sort of smoky puffball of angry villagers. That might take a while to do. Can we get this a little bit more pronounced? Just a little more detail. Okay. Cool. Oh. So I don't know if you guys are on Twitter. If you go on there and you look up Justin Rash, he's been working on this one scene from Overwatch with one of their characters, their puppets, and he used black smoke. He animated black smoke as a magical effect. So one of the characters kind of comes into the screen on this smoke and appears, you know. And it is the best use of black cotton to make smoke that I've ever seen. I mean, it looks awesome. It looks almost like a CGI kind of a thing, but it's not. I don't know if he used maybe wires to hold up the smoke, or how he did it, or maybe he laid the smoke on glass, like flat, and then animated it and superimposed it. He didn't really say. But if you guys are interested, I retweeted it on our Twitter page. earlier today, so you can check it out. So maybe that's something I can do with these guys. Maybe I could use cotton of some kind and animate that. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. So maybe I should study how he did that and try to reproduce, not the same exact technique, but something kind of along those lines. I think that might be kind of fun. Alright, so I'm going to cut this short here. This one's long and narrow. Maybe this one. How should I do this one? In between those two heights. This is kind of fun. Alright, so we got all these boards. So I can sort of arrange these like this, maybe. Okay. I think I might add some overlap on these things, maybe in Photoshop or something. I don't really know. I gotta think about how I'm gonna do this. But for now, keep going forward with these. This one here is, this side has more of a brownish variety of color to it than the other side here. This one's kind of more plain, so I'm gonna go with this side. Looks more like wood. And I think I'll add a knot down here. This. And yeah, you could use real wood for all this kind of stuff as well. Like if you had some basswood or something, you could sort of paint all these textures on here. Of course, that would take a bit longer, but still, you could do it. I mean, stop motion, of course, is not just limited to clay. Some people think that real materials are nicer, especially in productions. If you use something that's more robust. There are reasons why Aardman Animations and Leica don't really use clay. Completely legitimate reasons, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that not everybody can sculpt. That's something that's a very unique thing in terms of talent. So it's really hard to find people that will sit down and sculpt character faces and have continuity between animators and all that kind of stuff. That's another reason, because they want to make sure faces look the same and all the characters are on model, as they call it. Being on model is really important in animation, so they tend to go now with the 3D printing and all that, but I still like traditional clay animation. I think it's got a really cool look to it. Not many people do it, so if you do it, you're more unique. The only thing, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, if you go on YouTube, one of the most common clay animation videos are these Baby Hulk and Elsa videos. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It's like that's all people are making in clay animation because it's a trend. And people, I guess, are getting a lot of hits on those videos, so everybody's trying to copy each other. And it's just ridiculous how many Baby Hulk and Elsa clay animated videos there are on YouTube right now. And I don't know if that's good for clay animation or not. But it's almost like spam. And just people that don't really maybe necessarily have a passion for clay animation, but have more of a passion for finding out ways to make money. Using Disney characters. So I'm not really for that, but that's what we have, I guess. All right, so we have our boards done. I think these will definitely work. I think that all these will, once I photograph all this stuff, it should work out really well. We've got a variety of colors. And in Photoshop, I might actually, I could just like lighten some of these or darken some for the final shot. This is definitely enough, I think, for the tree, which will be here. Oh, I should show you guys. So we'll have the tree kind of in the back behind here. And this will sort of look like a wall. And that's the point, is to make that wall. The next thing, let's see, what time is it? 8:41. Okay. So we have a ball, a train, and a top. We also have a hammer to make. So I guess first we'll make the hammer, since it's easy. So we got a piece of brown clay and make some gray. Right. So this won't really be hard to do. I don't plan to make it into a complicated shape. It's just going to be more rectangular than like a claw hammer, This is more of a primitive society. This is sort of medieval, maybe even 1300s, I don't know. Almost the last date that a king was around outside of, well, I guess there's still kings. I guess like Saudi Arabia and stuff, they still have kings, but yeah, so let's just consider this like a medieval sort of time period. This will be our hammer. Generic, extremely generic. Basic. Like a handle. And around. It's like that. Maybe about the right length. So I'll just shape the bottom. And for this, I will add some very fine texture with my tool. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Mess that one up a little bit. And then when I examine it, I'll just try to figure out where, the good side is. Where the texture looks nicest, which is, I think, about here. Let's see, maybe like this. Match it to the hammer, and it should be good. Simple hammer. So all this stuff really that I'm doing is really, there's no reason to make it super complicated. So we're just trying to tell the story with the basics here. I think the complicated part was making the characters themselves, to actually give them character. That's the important part. The tools that they use are, not as important. especially when there's going to, the scene that uses the hammers, they're just going to be, hitting it really fast on the wood, and you're not going to really have enough time to sort of examine the shape and, all the textures and all. But it's, it's close enough. Now the train, I'm thinking, what color should I make the train? So, which color? I've got some nice blue clay. Maybe blue and yellow. And I don't want it to look too much like Thomas the Train, but these might be good colors to use. Kids' toys are generally pretty bright in color, right? So I'm gonna clean up the surface. So if you guys have clay and you want to clean it up, as you guys know, you can take a tool like this and just scrape off any dirt or dust that may have fallen on it on the surface and make it look nice again. And you really don't waste a lot of clay that way. And that's really the only way to clean clay, because the dirt and the dust will stick right to it. And you can try to sort of pick it out, each little fiber of dust or whatever's on there, or little teeny tiny hairs from your cat or something like that. But if you try to do that, you'll just drive yourself nuts. So here's what we're going to do, cut a piece. That's about all we need for the train. And then we've got this lighter blue, so I'm going to cut a piece of that. So the little kids have blue for their little clothes. So maybe I shouldn't use blue, actually. And the mother has purple. Those are already bright colors. Well, that's alright. I'll use blue for the train, and then I'll use perhaps different colors for the ball on the top. So what I'll do with this is I'm going to also use this to use my pasta roller to flatten this out. So like I said before, when you use a pasta roller, you get nice, even, flat surfaces. And as I mentioned, you can use it for mechanical things like, square pieces and trains and, wood and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take advantage of that fact, and we're going to cut the train parts out of this. And I don't have to make this to scale with the other puppets, because I'm going to be putting it in Photoshop, and I can resize it so that it's the size that we need. So I think something like this. A little hair in there. A little piece of dust. Alright. So just cut these pieces up, just like we've drawn here. And it's a little bit too small. So let me do this. Oops. Alright. That right there. So I don't know if you guys are interested in making a film this way. But hopefully this is, a definitive way of making things that you can refer to later. Now, there's no rules, of course, in making these kinds of things, but if you have a foundation, of how to make stuff, at least you can kind of go back and see how I did all this. And at least at this part of the filmmaking process, it's all just a matter of sculpting. That's the biggest part of it, is just getting the sculpt correct and making the shapes look nice to the eye, and That's really, you know, the main thing, and enjoying it as you go. And I think a lot of people that they think of a film, you know, like a stop motion film, as being just too much work. And while it is a lot of work, it's really rewarding. And if you just sort of just stop your mind from thinking too much about other stuff and focus on it, when you do finish, it's really rewarding. And it's also, you know, collaborative. Like if you want to work with other people, you can do that. And you know, musicians and all that kind of stuff. It's not really just about sculpting. There's other ways of expressing, you know, the things you want to express. And if you're not good at, you know, certain things like, you know, Foley or making the music or titles or doing the animation, if you're good at one part of it, you know, let other people get involved and let them express themselves, you know. And just make it about being a fun project as opposed to just something you do on your own. Make it something you do with your friends. I mean, I think these days it's kind of hard to get people to work together on projects. And, you know, some people are actually pretty hard to work with. Like, you know, if you know other artists or come across other artists, you know, you'll find that it's pretty common. Pretty common. I'm going to use some dark blue, I think, for the rest of this. But, so, I mean, it's like you learn. I mean, people make mistakes, people say things that hurt other people's feelings and all that, but sometimes, you know, if the chemistry is right, it's kind of like a musical band, like Red Hot Chili Peppers or somebody like that, where everybody just clicks in the band and they enjoy what they do, and when they're relaxed with each other, sort of like the creative juices just flow, and everything is in sync with one another, and everybody's happy, and that's when you get the best stuff, honestly speaking. It's no different with animation, and I think that could be said. Will Vinton Studios and Aardman Animation, you know, you can tell when these people have, you know, a really good working relationship with each other. Like, for example, Wrong Trousers. If you watch that film, I mean, you can just tell everybody was in sync with each other. And if that wasn't the case, you know, it would reflect in the artwork. Like, you would not see such a. I mean, that's Wrong Trousers is a masterpiece, quite frankly. I mean, the fact that all the characters in there, you know, from the Penguin, Wallace and Gromit, everything just seemed to work out perfectly. I mean, from this musical score, the Foley, the editing. If you just think about the number of people that were in that film, you know, working on it, and what was involved. There's too big. Let me get that smaller. There was definitely a collaborative. What's the word? Is this going to work here? It's going to all fall apart when I move it. Alright, I'm going to keep it here. I'm not going to move it from that part. So anyway, let me see something here. So, where are we? Okay. Making sure that everything's still working. Sometimes I don't look at what I'm doing on the screen here on my computer, and the connection is lost, and then I'm talking to myself. Anyways, I don't really know what I'm blabbing on about anyway. I'm just kind of blabbing to blab because I know people are watching. But yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, are there any times when you've been able to work with other people yourself? And did it work out? Did you see any advantages with working with other artists on your film projects at all? Or, I mean, personally, I've worked in studios. You know, I worked at John Lemon Films and Webster Colcord Films, and we all collaborated. Everybody had their own little task and job to do, you know, and it was a great learning experience. You know, it was really awesome to learn with other people how to not just do stop motion, but I learned how to do 2D animation as well. David Lauder was one guy that, you know, he was always doing cell animation, and that was back in the 90s when cell animation was still kind of puttering along, you know. And nowadays they don't really do things that in the old-fashioned way. It's all done on tablets and computers and all that, you know. It's not done on celluloid, like the actual acetate sort of sheets that are punched with holes and painted with cell paints and all that. That is a lost art now. And that's sort of when I was getting into stop motion, and while I was getting into that, when David Lauder was there, he was working on the 2D elements of the stop motion stuff for Gentleman Films. It was a sort of hybrid of 2D background or 2D characters on stop motion backgrounds. So he taught me a bunch of stuff about animating from a 2D point of view, which I never really knew about. And he introduced me to some books, which really helped me to understand, you know, the process of animation and timing and all that. So, you know, collaborations can be an amazingly fun thing. So Randy says, I loved working with a team at Wolvinton, but doing my own work and having clients to please has sometimes been very challenging. Okay, so what's your biggest challenge? Maybe just kind of getting stuff done on time, or I mean, what was the big challenge for you? I mean, or maybe staying motivated? Because you are a one-man show, and that seems to me what a lot of people are these days on YouTube, is they just work alone. Let's see, so training wheel here. But yeah, my best stop motion experiences are probably working with others. Way fun. Lots and lots of fun. And I learned pretty much more than I've ever learned, you know, working with others. And it's, I mean, you can go so far learning stuff yourself. Like, you can go on the internet now and learn how to make stuff, but not everybody puts everything on the internet. And there are a lot of tips and tricks and materials and techniques and things that people have learned just making films and animating that, you know, you won't find out there at all. Okay, here's our train. This is really simple. Simple train. I think I'll add just a few small details. Maybe like a little thing here on the wheel, so it looks like it's attached with something. So what time is it? It's already 9 o'clock. Man, I can't believe that. 1 hour went by so fast. All right. That's okay. We got lots done. So we have our train, we have our hammer, and we have our wooden boards all completed. Put my blue clay back. Let me see if I can show you guys up close without damaging anything. Hopefully. So here's our wooden boards. Simple, but it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to start animating this stuff. Simple hammer and simple train. So there it is. So Randy says the most challenging has been having clients ask me to make changes to sets and characters before animation, which often sets back the timeline but not the deadline, causing stress. I hear you. Yep. And in the advertising world, I know that it's extremely important that you get stuff done on time. And there's always a lot of pressure. I think it's probably one of the highest pressure jobs you can get in terms of trying to get something artistic done in a very short period of time. Even with live action commercials that I've worked on, it's always been that way. You have to work like 16-hour days practically. Yeah, that's never fun. And that's where I think having a team really would help. Absolutely. So if you had other people that could help you, maybe build the puppets while you make the sets, or vice versa or something, that's really great. But yeah, it's so hard to find people that can do animation and have sort of a broad skill set. I mean, that's really what it kind of comes down to, is that's kind of rare. And I know everybody always says that there's only a handful of stop motion animators out there, which is partly true. In a small area, like in one state or so, you'll find that to be true. But worldwide, there's a lot of people. But the problem is trying to get everybody in one area. There'd probably be several, at least, let's say, 1,500 to 2,000 stop motion artists of different skill levels out there. You think? Now, it has to be more, right? Because, there's 7 billion people. There's got to be more people that are into stop motion out there. Are they just hiding? Maybe one of your neighbors is an animator, but you don't know? I kind of wonder that sometimes. But anyway, yeah, so it's been fun talking to everybody. Hopefully you guys are, working on your own projects. Hopefully you guys, if you're not and you want something to do, I should probably mention before the end of the show that on animateclay.com we do have a 5-week challenge. I'm going to see what the deadline is here. I forgot already. And it's actually just making a puppet. It's a puppet making challenge. So let me go on the site, if it will load here. Okay. So our latest one is elves. So could be Christmas elves, it could be elves living in a forest perhaps, but that's a puppet making challenge. So you can sculpt a puppet, and let's see, so on August the 22nd, that will be when we examine those. So today is the 8th, so actually there's 2 more weeks left to make an elf puppet. So if you guys are interested in, or trying to maybe find a reason to make something that is for stop motion, you might want to try to just join and have a little fun doing that yourself, and we'll check them out and we'll examine them and maybe talk about the different sculpting techniques that you used, or puppet making techniques, maybe rubber or some kind of foam or something. You can make your puppets out of anything that you have lying around, so feel free to check it out, feel free to enter and have some fun. And I guess I will see you guys all next week. So see you guys later on. Oops.